Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to day 2 of the EXP 2021 Shareholder Summit. So honored to be back with you all here. 650 of our closest friends and family from across the globe joining for day 2. Hope many of you all had a chance to attend this morning's global reception in the Global Expo Hall. It was such an amazing experience to see hundreds of folks gathered together from across the globe. I think it was early AM in many of the countries. It was late in other countries. It was just beautiful. What an awesome kickoff to day number 2, everybody. So again, welcome. So glad you all are here. As you can see, if you're live in the EXPI auditorium, we have a little bit of an agenda up on the screen. We've got an amazing day 2 in store for you. So let me go through the agenda briefly here again. You've missed the global reception. If you missed it this time, don't miss it again. It was really something unique. It was so fantastic. We're going to open up with you all here for the next 20 to 25 minutes. At the 30-minute mark, our first keynote session of the day. You're absolutely not going to want to miss this. I am a huge fan of Jamie Kern-Lima. I've listened to her on podcasts all year long. So excited to hear her story on stage. She'll be having a conversation with Brooke, Baldwin. Amazing, amazing, powerful women leaders up here on stage this morning. Michael Valdez will be moderating. Then after the kickoff of the keynote, we have something a little different today than yesterday. So most of you yesterday stayed in this auditorium all day. Starting at 9:30 Pacific time, after the keynote session, you're going to leave this auditorium and you're going to travel around this EXPI campus to find whatever it is you need to fill your cup today, whatever's going to help you build, grow, get inspired, whatever's going to give you that moment of lift. I want to challenge you to find it today. And a couple of resources that you'll need in order to kind of navigate. Number one is you're going to want to look at the schedule that's on the website, expshareholdersummit.com. That schedule, expshareholdersummit.com, is going to tell you what the breakout schedule is. And wherever you find what it is you're looking for, as there are 9 breakout tracks, wherever you find it, you're just going to go to the Expo Hall, and then you'll see all the breakout tracks are located in the Expo Hall. So whatever session it is that you're looking to attend, you identify it, and then you just navigate there. The sessions will start at 9:30 Pacific time, and then they'll run every 45 minutes. So you're welcome to change tracks. You're welcome to change tracks in the middle. You're welcome to sit through one track all day. There's really something for everybody. There are big agent tracks if you're looking for production and sales productivity content. There's EXP Realty tracks if you're looking for what's going on across the EXP Realty platform, global, Spanish-speaking, growth and attraction, commercial, World Holdings, Verbella. That's just the beginning of laying out what's going on. But I see my good friend, Veronica Figueroa, making her way up here to the stage this morning. Veto, I don't want to take up any of your time. I just want to say good morning, quick audio check-in, and we'll gladly turn it over to you.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
We have you loud and clear. Thank you for being here this morning.
Oh my gosh. No, thank you for having me. I'm assuming you already went over the housekeeping rules. Is that correct?
Did a breeze housekeeping, Beto, but I want to let you keep your flow. Whatever you need to jump into to get comfortable, I will let you kick it off.
Oh my gosh, no, thank you so much. What an amazing first day. I'm excited that we get to do this together. I heard you already talk about the breakout sessions. Guys, these are sessions you don't want to miss. I mean, so many amazing agents, icons, leaders, influencers who are going to be teaching and helping you not only grow your real estate business, but also those of you who want to grow in growth and attraction. This is going to be amazing. It's going to be so much fun. I think also I'm pretty excited about the Spanish speaking track that is also going to take place for the first time, I believe. So this is really, really exciting, not only for, you know, our international growth as we continue to grow internationally, but just showing again how diverse and how amazing EXP is and always thinking about inclusion. EXP World Holders, Verbella, Success, so many, many amazing things that you do not want to miss. So thank you, Curtis, for touching base on that. As we move along to the next slide, you'll see here we have EXP Camp. as well. And Jennifer, I don't know if you guys see the slides on there, but yes, we have EXP Camp, which is, again, a very, very exciting breakout session starting today at 10 a.m. Pacific time. EXP Camp is going to consist of open workshops with content provided by you, meaning this is taught by agents. It's a very spontaneous, unplanned agenda, which again will unfold as you arrive and collaborate, because that's what EXP is all about, right? We're all about collaboration. Anyone can deliver a session. Attendees are strongly encouraged to participate. So get ready to refine your skills, learn something new, and interact with your friends at EXP, colleagues. This is going to be fun. It's going to be casual. It's going to be an event that's led by you guys. So I truly believe that these are some of the best masterminds that happen when we as agents come together to collaborate. So please, please, please make sure you get in there and show support. All right, we've got some more amazing things happening today. Obviously, we've got the Expo Hall hours. We want to make sure that you guys get out there, check out the Expo Hall. I mean, I went to the Global Expo Hall this morning. That was a lot of fun to see a lot of the international leaders and seeing everyone. But the Expo Hall also is another place to be. It opens up at 1 o'clock. So make sure you're there. Again, Pacific Standard Time. This is your opportunity to meet our sponsors who pour into us. Get to meet some of our EXP partners. One EXP is going to be there. They have a booth. Success is going to have a booth. The advisory board is going to be there. iHeart EXP, Extend a Hand, and so much more, guys. So again, I always say that really, really well at EXP are the ones that are plugged in. Let's go all in. Let's get plugged in and make sure that you get to meet all the leaders and all the people who are making a difference here at EXP. I'm super also excited about our next, one of the speakers later on this afternoon at 1:30. It's going to be so amazing to hear from our first speakers, but then following that, we're going to be hearing from the amazing John Saley, just a wellness master, an activist, an entrepreneur, former NBA player. I mean, his stories and what he's been able to achieve and how he is helping others also achieve is going to be super inspiring for you guys to learn and reinvent yourself and see how you can accomplish so much more in your life and world. So come on out and make sure that you listen to John and his amazing speech. Next, following that, we're going to bring in some more fun because, we love to have fun here at EXP. Trivia night is going to be super, super, super fun. It is this evening. Again, bring friends, families, colleagues. You can still invite people, show your competitive side. This is going to be today at 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Main auditorium in the EXPI campus, and Brad Anderson will be hosting this fun trivia night. So please make sure that you are there. Following that, we're going to have a meet and greet. Again, best relationships are made at conferences. We're going to meet other people. We're going to get to know each other. Come on out, meet your leadership. One EXP is hosting a meet and greet at the beach party at the beach. It's going to be from 2 to 3 Pacific Standard Time. And check this out, guys. One EXP's mission is to build EXP Realty into the most diverse and inclusive real estate brokerage in the world. We have so many amazing things happening at One EXP, and you could be a part of it. Networking, asking questions, maybe getting involved in one of the communities that you don't even know exist today. So come on out, meet all the leaders and the volunteers and the people who help build One EXP's mission, and make sure you get involved. We can't wait to see you there. Again, that's that's tomorrow from 2 to 3. Please, pardon me. That's tomorrow from 2 to 3. And this is something that's really, really fun for me. You guys, if you know me and you follow me on social media, I love to tag EXP. I love to just share what we're doing. Share your experience by hashtagging EXP Shareholder. Do it on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all over, whatever your favorite platform is. Just make sure that you take snapshots of those screens, pictures while you're watching, and share with the world how exciting it is at EXP Shareholders. And last but not least, of course, our sponsors. We want to make sure we thank them. This wouldn't be possible without our sponsors. When you go out to the Expo Hall, make sure you thank them. Make sure you meet them. They believe in EXP. They believe in you, and they want to help you grow your business. All right, guys, as we move along and get to our very, very special speakers, I want to make sure that everyone knows EXP Con. It is happening. It is going to take place. It will be in Las Vegas, and we will be able to come together as a company, as a family in person, and also virtually. So please make sure you register. Pre-registration is open. It is exciting for us to announce that this will take place this year, November 9th through the 11th. We can't wait to see you guys there. It is going to be life-changing for many of us, for many of you who have maybe never attended an in-person event at EXP. So please make sure you go and you register. expcon.exprealty.com is where you would go to register. So I can't wait to see you there. I know I'm registering today. All right, so as we kick this off, guys, EXP World Holdings Shareholder Summit, Day 2. It is my honor to introduce my favorite person at Global EXP, EXP Global, our fearless leader. I mean, someone who has just done an incredible job over the last year, opening up so many countries, helping us continue to grow as an organization. He brings his fearless leadership is just infectious. We love him. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Michael Valdez.
Oh, Veronica, thank you so much for your incredible words, but most of all for your leadership. You are so incredible and so integral to our growth and who we are as an organization. So thank you for everything that you do. And thank you all of you who came and kicked off the day with us at our global reception at the Global Expo Hall. How amazing is this event? This is extraordinary. Yesterday was beyond belief, and today it just continues. And I have the immense honor to really introduce our next two speakers. This for me is such an honor because of who these two individuals are. And I want to share a little bit about each of them. Jamie Kern Lima is the founder of IT Cosmetics. And for those of you that don't know, she actually started this company out of her living room. I want you guys to sort of think about this. She actually did this because she had a very successful career as an on-air journalist. She developed rosacea, and it's a hereditary skin condition, and she couldn't find makeup to cover effectively for her on-air performances. And so she thought, well, there must be other people that are in this same boat. She actually went with that passion. And she actually, there was a quote that I heard from her, which actually really moved me. And it was, knowing when to let go of a dream is as important as knowing when to chase a new one. And that resonated with me so much. She jumped in both feet, not knowing what the future was. Well, that little company that she started with a lot of tribulations that they're going to get into in the next hour, she actually sold for over $1 billion, and that's $1 billion with a B, everyone, to L'Oreal, becoming the first female CEO of the L'Oreal brand. She is the author of Believe It, How to Go from Underestimated to Unstoppable. I love that title. It's about who we all are. And that reached #1 in everything. The New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, Amazon. She is a prolific writer. She is also on the Forbes richest self-made women list and has donated, get this, $40 million in products and funds to help women facing the effects of cancer. Yesterday, we talked about changing the world. This is a woman who is personifying that. It is amazing to see what she has done and continues to do. She is donating her author proceeds of Believe It to Feeding America and Together Rising, an incredible human being. Our next speaker is Brooke Baldwin. who I have the distinct honor of actually calling a dear friend of mine. She is married to one of my best friends. Brooke and I have known each other now for the last 5 years and have developed a wonderful friendship on our own. She is an accomplished journalist with amazing accolades. She spent 13 years at CNN. She was the anchor of CNN Newsroom with Brooke Baldwin. Her documentary, To Catch a Serial Killer, won a Silver World Medal at the New York Film Festivals. She was nominated for an Emmy for her coverage on chokehold death protests in the wake of Eric Garner's death back in 2014. She was also a Peabody Award finalist for her town hall on gun violence, and she covered both President Obama and President Trump's inaugurations. But more than her accolades, I can tell you from seeing this individual and knowing her personally, she is someone who always stands up for others. She actually does take on that voice of the voiceless. She becomes that person. It's somebody that I truly admire. She is the author of a brand new book, Huddle, which celebrates stories of empowering women. And you know that you've actually made it when there's a Saturday Night Live parody on you. So it is my immense honor to present Brooke Baldwin and Jamie Kern Lima to the global stage. Lady, the stage is yours. I was just joking. Let's see. Are we having technical issues?
Nope, they're in the green room doing a tech check, and then they'll be right over.
Terrific. So I'll keep telling you stories then. So I was at Brooke's wedding, and you know that you have made it when you have Pat Benatar at your wedding, not singing, just as a guest. And it was actually pretty cool. And so it is really, really amazing to have these two individuals. This is really something that is amazing. These two women are so powerful in their own right and what they've done. And when we just talk about making a change in the world, there is no better representation than these two individuals. It looks as though we have avatars on the stage. Do we have web ready as well? I love Pat Benatar too. All right, I'll continue to tell you stories. I did not sing any songs. I wasn't that drunk. So but it was really interesting. And it was something where it actually had a lot of different people, cross sections of everything. I'll tell you stories about her husband, which is he's probably listening in and probably really sort of now cringing. So James is English. He is a film producer, and we knew each other when I lived in London for several years. And he actually said to me, and he says, "I met the woman I'm going to marry." And I said, "You're kidding." And so they come back and they met. And so he was trying to be really cool, and he sees Brooke at a party, and he says to Brooke, "You know, we should go have dinner sometime." Brooke's response was, "I'm hungry now." And so they actually had their first date then. And they obviously hit it off. And second date was when Brooke was doing a New Year's Eve from New Orleans live with Don Lemon. And she invited him to go to New Orleans as a second date. And so when they came back from that, I met Brooke. This was now 5 years ago, I guess. And we all had dinner at Soho House in New York. We all got to know each other, and it was where it all started from there. But they're a wonderful couple. They are fantastic. They're dear, dear friends. And it's just wonderful to see the trajectory. For those of you that don't know, Brooke left CNN last month to coincide with her next chapter in life, with her book launch that you'll hear about. And it was something that her father, wherever you are. And so it was a journey that she's taking on now. It looks as though we're getting our web cams together, because Brooke probably doesn't want me to continue telling stories.
I caught just the end of that, Valdez. I caught
Oh,
I heard
did you?
Soho House.
Oh my God.
I heard Soho
please.
House and New Year's Eve.
I was talking about how you and James met. It's sort of like, this is really bad as filler time.
No.
I gave them the I'm hungry now story. I gave them everything.
Amazing.
It's so great.
Here we go. Okay.
There you are.
I love you, Michael Valdez, and thank you so much for having me.
I love you, Brooke Baldwin.
We'll wait for Jamie to jump in her screen.
So Brooke can actually return the favor and tell about stories of coming to my birthday party in Argentina too.
Yeah, I mean, who has a 50th birthday party in Buenos Aires and invite and has everyone dress as though we're all various versions of Bond, in James Bond movies, which obviously made my English husband very happy. It was so special. So thank you for that. And if I can just ask a technical question, I know I'm in the screen and I know everyone's watching. Thank you so much. Can you guys? I just see myself, and I would love to see the lovely Jamie. Can I see her, guys?
If you hit stage zoom.
I see screen zoom, main stage. Yay! We made it, Jamie. We made it.
We're here. Hello, everyone. So honored and so excited to be here.
Jamie, I'm just gonna jump in. You guys, this book, I might have fangirled and texted Jamie early this morning over all of these details and stories and quotes and people. And I think we've probably fangirled mutually between Brene Brown and Oprah and everyone else in between, Mel Robbins. I do know you after reading your book. So it's truly an honor to get to talk to you. And honestly, Jamie, I would love to start with something, and we'll get there, audience. I just want to know, and we'll fill them in on the context in a second, how many squirrel cakes, squirrel pillows, squirrel cards have you been given in your lifetime, my dear?
Well, they're very special to me, but it's my favorite thing to give. Yeah, this is one of my favorite business tools. I think every single person in the audience in their own business as a realtor trying to make it happen. I believe in a lot of different business tools. And sometimes for me, this fearless squirrel is something that just reminds me of who I am and to be fearless and to go after it and swing them. And anyone who reads the book will get it right away. But we'll definitely one of my favorite business tools.
We'll keep it clean today, but you just have to read her book for the photos and the squirrel and the swinging them, which we'll get to, because I so feel you as a woman, just trying to make it so often in a male-dominated space. Let me just start just with the word no. When you hear the word no, what do you really hear? What is triggered in you?
When I hear the word no, right, or rejection in any form, I now actually have this deep sense of passion and joy. I have learned, and a lot of people are like, how did you start with nothing and build a $1 billion business, right? And a lot of people think it's easy. I feel like that word no, and learning how to hear it, how to process it, how to turn down the volume on it. Because sometimes when we hear no in our lives, whether it's from a client or someone got a place over us or this or that, or we don't get the job we want, or a client picks somebody else or whatever, rejection comes in so many forms. And I think that how we hear no and how we interpret the word no can in so many ways stunt our growth. It can stunt our businesses. It can lead us to not be the kind of leader we could be. And I think more than anything, it talks us out of our own dreams. It talks us out of our own truth. It turns into self-doubt in our heads. And also a lot of times when we hear no, we take it personally. So in my journey, and it's so wild that that's your first question, Brooke, because I'm processing it live and I'm like, no might be the most important word in my whole journey, because I had this gut feeling like I was supposed to launch this business, and I didn't know how. I didn't know anyone in the beauty industry. I didn't have any money. I didn't have any connections, but I had this deep feeling in my gut like I was supposed to do it. But sometimes when we know we're supposed to go after our calling, our head can talk ourselves out of it. So my head was saying things like, "Oh no, you're not qualified. You don't have what it takes." But I've done a lot of things wrong in building.
Guys, I just lost her audio. Yeah, Jamie, your audio. Jamie, can you hear me? Let her finish her thought and then we'll. Jamie, can you hear me? Video pointing. Right. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Go to the keyboard. Can't hear. I know, I love her passion too. She just kept going. I love it, I love it, I love it. We have to hear her. Let me try texting her while she is on the chat. Hold on, everyone. What shall I tell her? Can tech person jump in? Go out and come back?
Yeah, I would tell her to reinitialize her voice, which she can do up in the right-hand corner in that gears icon.
I'm texting. Grab your phone. Tell me again.
Yep, so in the top right-hand corner, there's a gears icon. If she clicks on that and hits reinitialize voice, it should reconnect the voice server.
Icon and click to reinitialize voice.
This is normally what we would call TV magic, and you guys get to see some of the behind the scenes, so.
I do breaking news for a living. I know this is nothing.
So
I just want to get her. I just want to get her.
While we do that, while Jamie is reinitializing, maybe you can tell us a little bit about Huddle.
Sure. So I just wrote a book, and I think it's actually really adjacent to her message in believing it. But I wrote this whole book called Huddle: How Women Unlock Their Collective Power, and so it came out last month. And the thesis behind it all sort of my world changed. So I've been a journalist for 20 years, and I was in Washington, D.C. for the Trump inauguration weekend. This was January 2017. And so I don't know where you all were that weekend, if you remember where you were, but on a Saturday, I was literally embedded in the Trump motorcade for CNN, balancing on the back of this flatbed truck and following the newly elected president and first lady to the White House. And needless to say, I was very curious as to what the next 4 years would entail for all of us. And then the very next day, I was back on the clock for CNN. I was in the middle of the Women's March. And I don't know if you all were anywhere near a Women's March anywhere in the world that day, but it was one of the most powerful feelings I've ever had, right? Of being in the middle of 500,000 women. And I was there, it was kind of like journalistic emotional whiplash, right? Going from the Trump inauguration one day, surrounded by MAGA hats and, loads of people showing up to just witness that piece of history. And then the following day being surrounded by so many women. And I remember Tamika Mallory, who is this Black activist, she was up on stage and she was like, we are not all here just because of one man. You know, that would be just almost too simple. But I think something had been simmering in this country for quite a while with women, and certainly for women of color, for a long time, right? And so that moment when all these women came together, and I interviewed everyone from, you know, Cher, who talked to me about, I think she's lived through 17 administrations, and wow, to Kirsten Gillibrand, to America Ferrera, you know, Madonna was there. Everyone was just speaking up and speaking out in a way that we really hadn't seen, you know, women do in a long time. That was when I realized, like, that was sort of the unofficial beginning of Huddle for me, my journey, really wanting to shine a spotlight on trailblazing women. And I'm looking at one right now. Let's see.
Indeed.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Got you. I love, by the way, Jamie, that you just kept going and you were so passionate about, like, we need to go back to all of it. And I'm seeing in the chat, everyone's like, we can't hear her. But
no. Okay, I'm going to do a better job of making sure I know that, because I was reading the whole chat before. So I'm going to be glancing down there now while I talk.
Okay, so we were talking about the power in the word no and how that really has been this life-changing word for you. And I mean, I'm a gal. I understand grit and determination. You know, I have my whole story of how, and you know, in TV news, like, it's brutal, right? But to hear, there's a lot to unpack in your story. And I know you've told the story many times, but I think for people watching today, so you were a morning news anchor. You were, you know, hustling in local TV after going to business school at Columbia. You were like, peace out. I'm going to go do this, you know, news thing. Right. And you do it, and you're this morning news anchor, and we all, like, sit under these harsh lights. And obviously in those markets, you're doing your own makeup and you're figuring it out as you go. And talk to me just a little bit about the seed of this idea with the makeup as it related to your place at the news desk.
Yeah, so I, you know, was going through what I thought was a season of setback in my life. Actually, I got a skin condition called rosacea, and it started getting really red. It would get bumpy, and I'd be anchoring the news live, and I'd hear in my earpiece from my producer, there's something on your face. There's something on your face. You need to wipe it off. And I knew there was nothing I could wipe off. I knew that, you know, I'd gone to dermatologists, and they had said, you know, you have rosacea. There's no cure for it. You can try all these things, and nothing would work. And so, you know, I thought I was in my dream job. I've always wanted to interview other people and tell their stories, like, since the time I was a little girl. And all of a sudden I'm sitting there going, oh gosh, like, am I going to get fired? I'd be anchoring the news live, and you know how our inner critic is, right? Self-doubt would come in, and I would think, like, am I losing ratings right now? Am I going to lose my job? Like, all those things. And you know, I think Joel Osteen coined the phrase that our setbacks are so often our setups for what we're meant to do, or for part of our calling, or for where we're going next. And sometimes it just seems like a hard time we're going through, and we don't realize that it's really for a bigger calling. And so I started trying to find makeup that would work, and I literally couldn't find anything that would work, from the drugstores to the professional lines to the department stores. And I had this moment. A lot of us have these moments in life where we get this feeling, you know, this feeling that maybe doesn't make sense in our head, but it makes sense in our gut, which is like, well, what if you create a product that works for you? It's probably going to help a whole lot of other people. And then I also had it, and I know, you know, there's so many amazing business thought leaders that talk about identifying your why, both as your business, but also for you personally in your job or in a goal that you're pursuing. And you know, in Believe It, in my book, I talk about all the things I did wrong and scaling it from nothing to a $1 billion business. But one of the things I did right was really learned it to hear my gut and to trust it. And Brooke, I had this deep why that came to me early on, and I want to share it because I think, you know, everyone right now, whether they're working as an agent, working in their own entire business, leading a team, I think this is so important to not just have a strong why, but to peel back the layers on your why and go way deeper. Because I see so many people fail in business or give up when times get hard because their why, like, sounds good to everyone, but it's not deep enough for them to keep going every time they get knocked down. And, you know, early on, I realized, oh, if I could create a product that works for me, it would help a lot of people. But this big aha that I had early on was, wait a minute, why can't I find a product that works for me? And then I realized my whole life, I'd been seeing all these images of beauty out there in commercials or in magazines, and they were always Photoshopped. They were always these kind of perfect, flawless skin. And I realized, like, my whole life, I would always watch those commercials as a little girl, and I would think like, oh, I would love them. I'd aspire to look that way. But deep down inside, they always made me feel like I wasn't enough.
Yeah.
And I had this moment where I was like, oh, let me launch a business. But I realized it's not going to be about a great product. Of course, I want to make a great product. But what if I can literally try to shift the definition of beauty in the beauty industry? What if I can use models that are all ages and skin tones and sizes and shapes and people with rosacea like me and call them beautiful and mean
So
it?
brave, Jamie.
Well, it was,
brave.
I thought it was a good idea. I didn't realize how hard it is to do something that no one's doing yet. And my whole thing was, what if I can show these models, call them beautiful and mean it, for every little girl out there who's about to start doubting herself, and every grown person who still does. And so I had that deep why, and it really kind of helped me go forward.
Can I jump in, because I see you're
Yeah.
already making this about other people, and I'm just gonna, if I may be the journalist, and make this about you for a second. So I want to, in terms of your really deep why, what I was struck by in reading your book was the no after no after no. So for everyone watching, so Jamie is so just possessed, almost like called by this, I must create this makeup for women like me. And you leave a perfectly good job. Thank goodness you have this hunky Brazilian, boyfriend, husband who you met, in your stat class in grad school. Love that story. And you, in your living room, the two of you, and you get the graphics guy or gal from the TV station, who makes the maps to help you create the packaging. Explain to this audience, and we are all familiar with being rejected or told no. How many no's did you get, Jamie?
Yeah, it was hundreds and hundreds of no's for over 3 years. And so, a lot of people know IT Cosmetics right now because maybe they see it in Sephora or QVC, where we're now the largest.
You use it, by the way.
You what? Oh, you do. IT Cosmetics right now is the largest luxury makeup company in the country, right? And so a lot of people are learning about it now and going, oh, wow, it's this huge success story, right? L'Oreal acquired it for $1.2 billion. It's this, but what a lot of people don't realize was, like, it almost didn't happen, because a lot of us, a lot of us give up after the second no or the third no or the 100th no. But for me, it was 3 years of hundreds and hundreds of no's. And it's really tough when other people don't get your vision or don't get your dream. It's tough to not let that equate to self-doubt in your own head. It's tough to, when we eventually, I couldn't afford to hire anybody for the first 3 years. And when we eventually could, we were still getting a lot of no's. And it's hard to lead a team when you're facing that rejection. And so for me, I was sharing a little bit about this earlier, and I'm not sure how much we heard before it stopped. But, I think that the moments in all of our lives, and definitely for me in my journey, how we handle rejection or how we handle the word no, I believe those are literally the defining moments of our lives. I think most people talk themselves out of their own dreams and their own potential, and how big they can scale their business and how big their impact can be, because they literally let hearing no equate to self-doubt in their own head. And so for me, Brooke, the first 3 years, I would send our products to Sephora and Ulta and all the department stores and QVC, which is this 24-hour shopping channel. And I had this feeling, Brooke, that I'm like, if we can get on QVC, like, I could prove it live. I don't need to, you can't Photoshop live TV, at least not yet. And I was like, I can get on there and show how this works and show real women, and like literally try to shift that definition of beauty live by using different types of models. And I just knew it. I just had this feeling, but no one else saw the same vision I saw. And every time I would go to a meeting with a department store or And I would pitch my heart out, and it would end in a no. It would say, I was told women won't buy makeup unless the images you put out are so aspirational they can never possibly achieve them. I was told, change your packaging. You can't use real people as models, over and over and over. And I think that one brief story that really sums it up. We were about 2 years into our business and down to under $1,000 in our bank account. I kept having this feeling I was supposed to keep going, but I didn't know how we were going to stay in business. And we got a big call from a potential investor from a private equity company that's really well known, tons of successful brands that they've started like as little ideas, and they've made them household names in the consumer product space. And I was so excited. They loved our product, and we started having meetings with them. And I was like, if they invest in us, A, I'm not going to go bankrupt, and B, maybe they can use their connections, their power, their leverage to get us into some of these stores that keep telling me no. So I thought this was going to be the most life-changing thing. And we started meeting after meeting after meeting, and we got to the diligence phase, which is when you show your whole product pipeline and you show all your projections, and I thought it was going to happen. And we got to the final meeting. My husband and I flew up for it, and we were standing there in person with the whole private equity group. And the head guy was about 3 feet from me in person. And he's like, we just want to thank you. We really appreciate this. We believe in your product, but it's a no. We're going to pass on investing in IT Cosmetics. And I'm about 3 feet from him, right? And I say, okay. And at this point, I'm used to hearing no. And I'm like, can you tell me why? Because feedback is a gift, usually. And I'm like, can you tell me why? And there's a long pause. And he says to me, do you want me to be really, really honest with you?
Oh, Lord.
And I'm like, yes, please. And he just paused, and he's literally 3 feet from me. And I remember like watching his mouth as he said these words, but he said, I just don't think women will buy makeup from someone who looks like you with your body and your weight. And I remember a couple things, like, well, first of all, a lifetime of body doubt and self-doubt like flooded my body all at once when he said that. It was almost like I was looking at my own fear, staring my own fear straight in the eye. But when he said those words, like, I actually never felt anger toward him or anything like that. I remember a couple things. First of all, Brooke, the moment he said that, I'll never forget this. There was a feeling in my gut. The moment he said, I just don't think women will buy makeup from someone who looks like you with your body and your weight. I mean, yeah, it hurt. I went in my car and cried. It destroyed me. But in that moment, I got this feeling in my gut that said he's wrong. It was this feeling. I'll never forget that feeling. And, and by the way, we talk about how deep our why is, why we need to peel back the layers. I was able to not take that rejection personally, because what I realized is, oh my gosh, here's a dude who is just as much impacted by the beauty industry as I've been. Like, he actually doesn't think, he can make money off anyone that doesn't look a certain way. He's just as much impacted. And it kind of fueled me more. And the last thing I'll say about this really fast, just in case someone needs, I always pray before I speak. I'm like, I hope I share something that someone needs to hear today. But there's a famous saying, rejection is God's protection, or rejection's the universe's protection. And I've learned to also look at rejection that way and to kind of have this faith about it. And what I want to share is I didn't hear from that guy for 6 years. And 6 years later, the day L'Oreal acquired this little company I started in my living room for $1.2 billion cash, because they're a public company, they had to share, it went out in a press release. It was the homepage of the Wall Street Journal online. It was kind of everywhere. And I heard from that guy for the first time. And he's like, he said, congratulations on the L'Oreal deal. I was wrong. And I learned it would have been the most successful investment in his company's history. But the other thing, and I just to share this is why I now embrace rejection in my life. I trust its protection. I was so desperate, Brooke, at the time that, we had no money. We probably would have given him the majority of the company for nothing, just to try and survive. But because he didn't believe in me at the time, by the time we did sell to L'Oreal, we were still the largest shareholders. And there was a lot of people that did believe in us along the way, of course. But, sometimes it's like, thank God for the closed doors too, not just the open ones.
Less. And also that just reading your speech, which you include in the book, will make it all the more special, all the more relevant and important. And just thank you, by the way, as a woman, who is not a size 2, who has certainly had her own battles with body image and hasn't, right? And I write about that a little bit in my book. Just thank you from the depth of my heart for speaking up and being true to yourself. And I want to talk about authenticity. I know you write about this, and I think this is so huge. And I'm also here fresh off of rereading like The Gifts of Imperfection by Brene Brown. I'm just in a space right now where I'm just like, feed me with all of these wise messages. And you actually quoted Brene, and you write, so many of us waste so much of our lives shrinking who we are and how we show up because we're worried with what other people think. Just talk, Jamie, a little bit about the importance of showing up as your true self as a woman in business and just as a human.
Yeah, I think it's probably the most important way to ever live congruently and feel joy is when we align with the authenticity of who we are. But I also think that, we're in this digital world nowadays, and especially the social media world, where more than ever, it's so easy to get distracted by seeing everyone else's highlight reel, even if it's in our own space, in our own profession, in our own world. And, so 2 things on this, because I want to share with you, Brooke, something that I learned too over what I think, and it ties to authenticity, is the biggest secret to success in business and in scaling a business and a brand, and it has to do with authenticity. But what I will say is, I think Tony Robbins is famous for saying success leaves clues, and we could definitely see what other people who are crushing it are doing and model some of those things that feel authentic to us. But I think that the key differentiator, and I think one of the reasons we were able to scale to $1 billion business and bring on, I think we have over 7 million paying customers. I don't even know the latest number in just the US alone for the brand. But the way we were able to do that is literally by making this decision to keep our blinders on in a lot of ways to what anyone else was doing, to what is trendy in the marketplace at that moment, and only acknowledge it if it felt authentic to our own authentic DNA as a brand, right? So, over the years, when I was eventually able to hire a lot of amazing experts from the beauty industry to come work at my company, we grew to over 1,000 employees before I sold it to L'Oreal. And the one thing that would happen is everyone would come over and say like, okay, and they would show me all the data. Like, look what's hot here. This brand's doing that, or this trend is coming out. Or we'd have retailers come to us and say, a year from now, we're going to do all of our front windows with this theme. Can you make a product for this? Right? And I had to make this decision because I know that you cannot fake authenticity. You just can't, right? And you'll know from like Brene Brown, for example, is so beautifully shares how the only way, with all her research, the only way to have an authentic human, a real human connection is to show up authentically, right? But so many of us show up as our representative of, and we hide the parts of us we think we're embarrassed about, or we don't want people to see. Because maybe we don't feel like maybe we feel like we're the sum of our past mistakes, or we don't come from the right family, or don't have the right connections, or whatever the crap is we tell ourselves in our head about why we need to show up as the person we think people want us to be. But doing that is a recipe for failure, because not only, she talks about how you can't actually have an authentic human connection unless you fully show up as yourself, even the messy parts, the quirky parts, all of it. But you can't have an authentic connection with your team, with your customers, right? And so that approach is what we took in building at Cosmetics. And So it got to the point where, I knew our mission. It was clearly defined. I knew what types of products we were going to launch. I knew we weren't going to launch something just because it was trendy and it might make a retailer money or us money short term, right? And it got to the point where when my team would come to me and say, oh, this is, hot, we got to do this. I would say these words to them over and over. They probably got so sick of hearing them and could probably repeat them in their sleep. But I would say, our biggest threat to our business isn't the competition. It's if we ever get distracted by it and tempted to dilute our own authentic secret sauce, right? And so we had this filter. Every employee had a thing on their desk and then on their screensaver, which really talked about our why and who our customer was. And I really challenged everyone to run everything through that filter, every product launch decision, every marketing communication decision. And one big lesson, just to share quickly, that I learned is, when we eventually did get on QVC, which that story, how that even
Jamie, you got to tell. I mean, that was the story in the book, by the way, audience, everyone listening, and this, and TV, right? But you're there, and it feels like everything's on the line, and you got 10 minutes, and you need to see the 2 words sold out, and this was when really you got this huge break. Can you just briefly tell that story, and then go ahead and please make your point?
Yeah. By the way, when Brooke and I did the rehearsal, I'm like, oh my gosh, I could talk to Brooke for like 24 hours straight. I'll keep going. Next time we'll have to do it with like margaritas or something.
Totally.
That's a lot. And about your book, that would be so fun. Which I have right here, by the way. I should show it. Hold on. Sorry, guys. I know I'm live, but I'm excited. I was putting our 2 next to each other, behind each other. But about authenticity, and I think this lesson applies, again, whether you're a broker or you're, running an entire team, or you're simply just setting a goal in your personal life, or you're talking to your kids. For me, this lesson has now been one of the most powerful I ever learned. And it has to do with that 10-minute kind of one shot that I got on QVC. And just to kind of put it in perspective, well, I shared we were down under $1,000 in our bank account, didn't know how we were going to make it. And, we had heard hundreds of no's. And I share the story and believe it in the book, how it actually happened, where we finally, and the squirrel was part of it. Brooke and I were referencing.
We'll come back to that.
But we eventually got a yes and one shot on QVC. So here's what that meant, to kind of put it in perspective. We were only doing 2 to 3 orders a day from our website, barely keeping the lights on. Everyone was saying no. And after 3 years of no's, we get this yes to get one chance live on QVC. So live in front of 100 million homes. And I learned 100 million homes. And I learned that, we would need to, so we were doing 2 to 3 orders a day, but I learned we would need to actually sell 6,000 units of our concealer, our Bye Bye Under Concealer, in this 10-minute window to hit their sales goal or not come back. And so we applied for an SBA loan. The first 22 banks said no, and they should have. We have no, but there was a small bank in California, that the 23rd bank, that gave us an SBA loan for just the amount that would cover that one purchase order from QVC, to give us that one shot. Because it was consignment, which meant we had to pay to manufacture the inventory, ship it in, and we were only going to be paid for what sold on air. And so what that meant was literally everything was on the line in this one shot, in this 10-minute window. And so we hired third-party consultants that are awesome. They help so many people sell on television and in stores, and they helped us put together our 10-minute presentation. The problem was, and this is what leads to my biggest life lesson that I think impacts business and life, the problem was they were seeing our presentation the best way they knew how, through the lens of their own experience, right? And they gave me their best advice, which was, you need to book this type of model with flawless skin, all the same age, same skin tone, and that's the only shot you have at success. And even with that, Exactly. And even with that, very few people still make it, but they're like, here's what you need to do. And they really meant well. They're giving me their best advice. And these are the moments in life, I think, that change our lives, is when we make these decisions. Do I trust myself? You know, and it was really a tough thing because I flew out to QVC a week early before we got this one shot live on air, and I sat in this rental car in the parking lot all alone, and I sat there praying, crying. I knew I was watching. This sounds weird, but I didn't know how to process the weight of what was about to happen, and I was watching the front door of the QVC building, and I just watched people walk in and out, and I just sat there in that car every single day.
Wait, let me pause. Let me, just for everyone listening. So this is Jamie describing before she actually goes into QVC, when everything's on the line, she's gotten the small business loan, and this is it, and she's got 10 minutes to do it. And so you sit in your rental car for days.
Yeah.
You're like kind of that creepy lady in the parking lot who's just sitting there staring at the front door of QVC, envisioning yourself walking through that door multiple days in a row. Yes?
Yes. Yeah. And, you know, I thought, Brooke, this is a little embarrassing, but I thought, like, okay, Olympic athletes visualize like landing the triple axel or like standing on the podium. So I sat there visualizing a sold out sign coming up. I sat there visually. And then honestly, these are the moments, right, when like it's easy to know what we stand for and what we believe. It's easy to say, oh, you can't fake authenticity. But then when everything's on the line, right? And I knew I couldn't try it both ways. I knew, oh my gosh, okay. And I sat in that car, and there were moments of major self-doubt that came in my head, because I was like, well, they're experts for a reason, and maybe I should try it their way. And then if I, do well, I could try it my way. I had all these thoughts. And there was this, I was basically on the verge of talking myself out of my own truth. Which is easy to do when the noise of other people's opinions and other people's fear and other people's self-doubt gets really loud in our lives. And I just remember sitting there, and I had this moment, Brooke, where, we talk about who's our customer, and I sat there imagining who my customer was. And I knew I would be live to 100 million homes, but for whatever reason, I kept imagining like this single mom in Nebraska folding laundry who was too busy to remember that she mattered, too busy to remember that she was beautiful. And I had this moment in the car where I realized if she was going to bless me with a few seconds of her time and turn her television on, like I would rather her look up at the TV, see me calling women who look like her beautiful and meaning it. Even if she buys nothing, yes. I would rather do that than sell a crap load of product and stand for nothing. Yes. And so I knew what I had to do, but it doesn't mean these moments are easy. And I walked into the studio, and the big 10-minute clock was on the countdown clock was on the floor. And Brooke, right before I learned, oh, you're not guaranteed 10 minutes. If you go live and the product's not selling, you might be a minute or two in and think you have 8 minutes left, and your clock might jump to like 1 minute left. And you're not getting right. And then you take all the product back and you go bankrupt in my case. I was like, okay.
Aren't they, you've got an earpiece, right? And so you've got a producer in the control room, again, just adding to the mounting pressure, telling you, okay, if anything has sold, how many more minutes you have left, like in real time.
In real time. And I don't get nervous for TV, but when we were about to go live, my whole body was shaking. I was trying to do this demonstration on my wrist that shows, because it was like live, it was like 9:59, 9:58, and I was trying to show our concealer doesn't crease the way the top department stores do. And I was bending my wrist, but my wrist was like this. And the host is so good. She was such a pro. She grabbed my wrist, because we're live on TV, and she's like, thank you, sugar. And she pushed my hand under the thing, and we kept going. And I remember the moment my bright red before shot came up on national TV, and we walked over to our models, and all ages, sizes, skin tones, shapes, skin challenges, and called them beautiful and meant it. And we had about a minute left. I didn't know how it was going, but I knew we weren't cut yet. And we had about a minute left, and the host says, the deep shade is almost gone, the tan shade is, and I'm like, And then I remember that at the 10-minute mark, this giant sold out sign came up across the screen, just like I had imagined in the car, and tears start streaming down my face on national television. And then I remember they cut, and I don't know, they went to like Dyson Vacuum or Vitamix or something. And I was just sobbing, and my husband comes running through the double doors, which, by the way, a few minutes ago when the audio went out, he came running through the double doors of the room, just like that.
That is why there's a ladder. That is why there was a ladder in my shot, everyone, because we had to hardwire the Wi-Fi, and he ran out to 4 stores to find the cord. Like, God bless our partners. Yes.
Isn't that wild to hardwire? I know, I'm hardwired in as well. And I was like, oh, it's, yeah, that's funny. It looks good. It's decorative ladder. It looks good.
So he rushes through the QVC doors.
Yes.
You've sold out.
Yeah, and I'm just crying, and I'm like, I'm like, real women have spoken, and I'm just sobbing, and he's like, we're not going bankrupt, and I was like, and that one airing turned into 5 that year, 101 the year after that, and then eventually 250 live shows a year. We built the biggest beauty brand in QVC's history, and it is right now to this day. And I only share that because they said no for 3 years. They said, even when I would get their head guy on the phone, which is amazing to even get his time, but he said, you're not the right fit for us or for our customers. It's unanimous with our buyer. And a lot of times in life, we hear those no's and we think, oh, is my gut wrong, right? We second guess ourselves. And every time I would cry myself to sleep another night or not know how are we going to stay in business, like leaning on that why, but also checking with my gut. And I kept having that feeling that I was supposed to keep going. This is where I was supposed to be. And again, those are the moments that change our lives. And there's one big lesson, only if you want me to share it, about authenticity.
Yes,
I can share.
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, we went back time and time again on QVC, and it's a wild experience because you're in the green room with hundreds of other brand founders or entrepreneurs or the top salesperson in that company going on air to represent the product, right? So you get to meet all of these awesome people, and you spend a lot of time with them. When you go live on the air for 10 minutes, you're often in the building for 3 to 4 hours because of all the meetings and the prep and all the stuff. So anyhow, over the years, I ended up doing 1,000 live shows myself and meeting thousands of brand founders and top sales executives. And there was this moment, Brooke, where I was
Girls in the
thinking
dressing
about,
room moment.
Oh.
Is this the mean girls in the dressing room moment?
Oh,
I was going to ask you about that.
Oh, I should talk about that too. No, what I was going to share, I love that lesson that changed my life too, that I wrote about in the book a lot, because a lot of us deal with haters or mean girls or people we think are our friends, and then they're not for us once we start accomplishing success. And but no, this was really after doing 1,000 live shows. I had this moment, Brooke, where I was like, well, so few of these brands ever make it. So few of these top sales executives ever get past 1 or 2 shows, right? And I started thinking about, is there a commonality or a through line between all of the brands that end up being huge on QVC, or, and I realized, okay, it's not the ones that have maybe the best product or the most famous product, or it's not the ones that are the most well-funded. What I realized is the ones that make it, right? The only commonality in all of them is their person who's selling, who goes on air to present, is this, whether it's the founder or the top executive, that person's the same off air in the green room as they are on air when they're selling. Meaning they show up, right? We talked earlier about fully authentic, not as your representative, right? Yeah, they're the same on air as off air, because you can't fake authenticity, and their customers are smart, right? So they're able to, when they're fully themselves, for better or worse, some of them are crazy and all over, different personalities, but the ones that were fully themselves, they're the ones that last. They're the ones that make it. And I think when we learn that lesson, that literally there's only one of us in the world. And when we start trying to show up as what someone else is doing online or this or that or whatever, it's almost like a recipe for failure. But the real way to connect, whether it's with our teams, our customers, or the friendships or relationships we're in, is like fully 100% authentic. And so that lesson was huge for me in life and in business.
How did you deal with, and I know you have a whole section in the book about dealing with the haters, and especially, gosh, in the era of social media and people hiding behind, a computer screen and the worst, but specifically even, and your chapter 4 was so near and dear to me because I did write a book really all about women huddling, coming together, leaning on instead of, sharp elbows and the scarcity mentality. And, especially when you started talking about you referred to them in your acknowledgments as wolf pack. And I don't know if that was a nod to the indomitable Abby Wambach, but like, how you obviously have a strong core group of strong badass women in your life, but you also, as a successful woman, and especially after you're kind of crushing it at QVC, you also have other women who at that time were not very nice, and we can be the worst to one another, and you write about that. Can you just speak to that a little bit, and how you and how that affected how you approach women as a successful businesswoman?
Yeah, it was a tough season for me. I kind of went through this journey of, and a lot of people maybe who have stepped into success in their life for the first time have this experience, sometimes with their own friends and family. But I went through this experience in the QVC green room where, I was friendly with everyone. I loved everyone, and everyone was great every time I'd walk in. And that was when I was super tiny, under the radar, and I guess not a competitive threat to anyone. As our business started growing and growing and growing and getting larger, there was and listen, most people were incredible and amazing, but there was a small group of women, 3 of them, that weren't so happy when my brand started growing, and they kind of saw my success as, I guess, a threat to theirs. And it was a really tough process. I was raised a people pleaser, and I know a lot of women are, and there's this part of me that just wanted everyone to like me. And so for a while, I took it really hard. I would walk into the green room, and there was one moment, like, they basically started bullying me is what happened. And I was like, wait a minute, I was in my 30s, and these women, there's bullying in your 30s? I was like, oh yeah. Right. And there were times that they had these communal green rooms where you're all supposed to go in and get ready, and they're to be shared. And one time I was rushing in to go change, and they wouldn't let me in the green room. And one time there was this opening to the show, live show, 100 Million Homes, and we're all supposed to stand around and socialize like a cocktail party, which at cocktail parties I'm a super introvert anyways, but you're supposed to stand around and socialize. And they wouldn't let me in this circle. The 3 of them formed a circle, and they wouldn't let me in. So the live show opened, and I was standing there all alone, like holding back tears, trying to act like I was so happy. And I had to go out and sell another $100,000 in a 10-minute window, like a few minutes later. So I had to get my mindset right and learn to not, give my power over to this drama that was going on. And it was this tough moment. And after several times leaving QVC, sorry, I just knocked my computer. There we go. After several times leaving, and like there were times I'd cry my makeup off in the car, and I was like, this feels like I'm in elementary school, though this never happened to me in elementary school. And I was like, what is going on? And it took me a while to process it. But at one point, I just made, 2 things. I made this decision, and I made it, and I meant it to myself, that I would grow my company so large that the thought of their thoughts of even competing with me wouldn't even cross their mind. And that did happen. And the second thing was, I had this big epiphany, because I thought about it over and over and over. Why is it that they're threatened by my success? Why all these things? I had this big epiphany that I believe in every ounce of my being, that I believe none of us, not a single one of us, is here on this earth to compete with anyone else. Like, I believe we're each here to compete with who God made us capable of becoming. I believe the only thing we compete with is our own potential. And I had that big epiphany in this process, and that's what I stuck to. And And I believe that. And it helps me also just, it puts in perspective, and I believe this too, that someone else's success has no impact on our own. Like I literally believe we're just here to compete with our own potential. And so we eventually did become the biggest beauty brand in QVC's history. And one of the women made a bid for a friendship, and the other two are just kind of pleasant acquaintances, and I'm not close with any of them, and I wish them well, but I'm so glad I didn't let them take me down to that level, because it just hurt people, right? We know that saying, and it's really, when someone's a hater, it's just a reflection of the pain they're in. It has nothing to do with who we are. So that was a fun thing. But yeah, and nowadays, Brooke, it's like more than ever because of online and the virtual world. We have kids dealing with this every day, and friends and family. And anytime we want to put our gifts or our offerings or even our voice out into the world, we risk it coming with opposition or with haters, and learning how to have the mindset around it to be resilient is so important, because haters can talk you out of living your own truth or becoming the person you're born to be also.
God, I feel like I should be taking notes. I have all my notes from your book, but you are something special, Jamie. And I just hearing your droplets of wisdom, it's just, I'm letting them soak in as I'm just hearing you tell your story. And again, you know, her book is Believe It, and it's got all of this and all these great details in it. And so let's pivot now let's talk about, what was her name? Carol Hamilton. Let's get to L'Oreal, right? So you're already having this obviously giant, much deserved, much hard earned, blood, sweat, and lots of tears success with QVC. And the idea that perhaps L'Oreal could buy It Cosmetics. And again, back to your favorite word, no. Tell everyone about Carol and the original no, which led to the yes.
So it's funny that, I heard Carol. So Carol Hamilton is a legend in the beauty industry, and is she's right now the head of US acquisitions for L'Oreal. At the time, she was head of all luxury brands in the United States. And in the beauty world, she's kind of like, you think of Anna Wintour in the fashion world, and in the beauty world, there's Carol Hamilton. And I heard her speak at an event, and she was speaking at this big event, and I'd never met her. We were a small brand, and she gave her top 10 favorite products of all time. And It Cosmetics wasn't on there because, of course, no one had even heard of us practically. We were still getting no's from everybody. So I channeled the squirrel, which everyone will understand if they read Believe It. I channeled the squirrel, and I literally wrote her a handwritten note saying, I appreciated her talk, and her top 10 was great, but It Cosmetics was missing from her top 10. And if she actually tried the product, I'm sure it would be in the top 10. So I'm basically pitching her in a note, and I had a basket of product delivered to her. I never knew if she received it. I never knew, I was just looking for like, oh, this person could maybe be an amazing mentor in my life. And I never knew if she got the product or the note. Fast forward at least over a year, and they asked us to have a meeting. L'Oreal, Carol Hamilton and her team asked us to have a meeting, and they came to our It Cosmetics offices. And again, I had this feeling, Brooke, I'm like, they're gonna buy it. They're gonna buy it. I just knew it. Then I learned, oh, that's not so easy. Having a huge acquisition, not so easy. They came in, we met with their teams, and from that first meeting on, it would be a couple more years of meetings where, and let me preface this, anybody who's gone through burnout can relate to this, but I didn't, so there's a lot of hard lessons I learned that I talk about in Believe It.
Then you'd have to open up a ticket for them to go ahead and.
Oh, is that you? Oh, okay. I was like, that's not Brooke.
No, maybe keep going.
Oh yeah, I see in the chat. I see people saying I live in burnout. And I see other people saying I can't hear. Can you hear me okay, Brooke?
I can hear you perfectly. Can you all hear us? Can you jump in the chat? Can you hear us? Yes, thumbs up, yes. Okay. So
yeah, and I see people chatting I live in burnout. So, one of my biggest regrets and I talk about this a lot and Believe It, is for the first few years, because of so much rejection, when we started getting success, I almost couldn't believe it was really happening for a minute. It took me a long time to really believe it and to believe I was worthy of my success. And in that time, I just thought, oh, I've got to strike while the iron's hot. So I was working literally like 100-hour weeks for almost 10 years and was living in this state of burnout, became addicted to work. And, not to be like too deep here, but work addiction and busyness can be like any other addiction where it numbs us, separates us from ourselves. And I was living in that state. And so I share that to say, part of why I made the decision to sell the company was because I've learned to trust myself. And in this case, it was to trust myself, not to trust myself, that I wouldn't keep working like this forever, because we thought about going public, but all of I would still be driving the business. And so anyways, we did 100-hour weeks for years. And in that process of meeting with L'Oreal, I just felt so passionate about our mission and about, changing the definition of beauty in the industry, not just in the US, but globally. And we started trying to do that ourselves. We launched into Southeast Asia out of our office and realized, oh, HR compliance laws, regulatory compliance, they're different in every country, right? We're trying to be experts on our own. And so while we meet with L'Oreal, I have this epiphany like, wow, if we partner with them, or even if they buy our company, they're going to be able to take our mission and instantly, they're in the ground in over 100 countries with teams on the ground who understand the local culture and understand everything. And so I had this kind of big vision like this was going to happen. But it was another journey in my life where it would be a few years of hearing no. And so in all the meeting after meeting with L'Oreal, they would say, we appreciate your growth, but we're not sure if you're going to scale globally. Or it would be different things along the journey. Carol Hamilton, another woman, became in this whole process one of my greatest mentors, one of my greatest champions, and she championed this partnership to happen during those years of no's. And there was one no I talk about in the book a lot, and believe it, where I just thought it was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen. We did all these meetings with the heads of L'Oreal in Paris, and I was so excited to partner with them, and it ended up being a no. And I remember on the phone, literally tears streaming down my face, because, I was so burnt out and wanted to scale our business so badly. Yeah. And I remember telling Carol on the phone, she called me to tell me it was a no. And I think she thought it was going to be a no for good. And I just said, it will be a yes. It will be a yes. And one day I'm going to share this story to inspire other people to keep going. I'm like, it will be a yes. And she gave me, she gave me a courtesy laugh and said, thank you. And now I'm with Brooke Baldwin sharing the story. How amazing is that?
And now you're impacting thousands and I'm sure millions with this. Again, another no that became a yes. And so the line in your book that opens the chapter, we would like to offer you $1.2 billion to buy your company. Oh, Jamie, what was it like hearing those words?
Yeah, I'm still processing. And, I think everyone in the realty space for sure understands the word competitive tension. What kind of happened, Brooke, and maybe this also goes back to the whole idea, rejection is protection, right? Rejection is God's protection. In the 3 years of wanting to partner with L'Oreal so bad, but it ending in a no, again, I probably would have sold the company for way less. But by the time the stars kind of aligned and they wanted to acquire the company, it was really the first time ever where all of a sudden other people wanted to buy us too. And when L'Oreal made their initial offer, it was more than I could have ever imagined. But we started getting offers from other companies wanting to invest or buy our company outright that were for even more. And so then after 3 years of just praying this was going to happen with L'Oreal, I then said no to them. And I think like I didn't even know how to say, I know how to say, yeah, I know how to hear no, but I was trying to no, it was new to say it. But we had competitive tension and it was wow, game on. And they came back with a way better offer, which was for $1.2 billion in all cash. And And I gave them my word. There was nothing holding me to this, but I gave them my word I would stand for 3 years. And I think when people believe in you, it's always good to prove them right. And I worked really hard for them. We doubled the size of the company the first 2 years post acquisition, and it's a beautiful partnership. And Carol Hamilton, when they acquired us, they had never had a woman hold a CEO title of a brand in their 107-year history, and my title was founder, co-founder, and co-CEO. And Carol fought really hard for me to keep my title going into L'Oreal. Initially, they weren't going to let me keep my title. She fought so hard for that, and I never understood why. But they made me the first woman to hold a CEO title in L'Oreal's of a brand in L'Oreal's 107-year history. I later learned, after then working like super closely with Carol, like, wow, she should have been. In my opinion, she should have been the first woman to hold a CEO title in L'Oreal's history. And the thing I just have endless gratitude for is that she probably, I can't speak for her. I think she probably knows that though. And she fought so hard to lift another woman up into that space. And so for that, I will forever be grateful. And I talk a lot about this in the book about, bringing another person into the room, whether it's a PTA meeting, whether it's, a work meeting, exposing people to things that maybe they wouldn't see otherwise. And I think sometimes when we see something's possible, we can more easily believe it for ourselves. And I think we all have a lot of power to do that. And it's free to do that every single day.
One of my favorite quotes is from Megan Rapinoe, and she talks about, when you have access to power, throw down your ladders. And that's exactly what you're talking about. I so believe in that, and you live it. And I love how you talk about bringing a +1 woman. And so as Carol helped champion you helped champion so many other women. And in the final minutes that we have, we can't not talk about. Okay. We have to talk about Oprah. We have to talk about your moment. And yes, you met Michelle Obama. And my gosh, that story was so beautiful. And what she said to you, y'all read the book, believe it, right? But I'm gonna skip over Mrs. Obama to get to the one and only Oprah Winfrey, and how you had a +1 with you. And if you can give us just the version where you initially meet her, but what I really want you to get to, and this reminds me of just so many other moments and why writing notes and emails really can be life-changing. Explain how you had met Oprah, but you wrote this beautiful email, and I'll let you finish the story.
Yeah, I think the power of believing in ourselves and in what's possible is so strong. And growing up, I always felt, my whole life, I always felt like I was going to meet Oprah. And I have so many friends that want to meet Oprah. But I actually believed it was going to happen. Like, I made the decision to believe. It's part of why I call my book Believe It. I feel like when we actually really, truly believe in ourselves, it's like that's when we become unstoppable. And I believed it was going to happen. And so, but I didn't know how. I didn't know it would be on a day where I didn't shower and was so exhausted. But she was speaking at an event and at a stadium or the UCLA campus, a big auditorium in LA. And, I had bought tickets to go, and it's a long story that I go in deeper into the book, but long story short, by surprise, I ended up, and I was there with a few friends, a few other women, and my assistant wrote this letter, I guess, to her assistant that made it to her chief of staff somehow, and she just, I don't know to this day what she shared, but somehow I walk into this auditorium thinking that I'm going to just, I love hearing other people speak and hearing their stories. So I thought that was what I was there for that day. And meanwhile, it ends up that my seats got switched to Oprah's seats. And when I walked in, her chief of staff came up to me and introduced herself and said, "You'll be meeting Oprah at lunch." And I was like, "What?" And I looked over, and my assistant's crying, and I was so burnt out. I didn't shower, Brooke. My hair was in this like ponytail. It was a mess. Anyways, I'm like, okay, like so I think I'm going to go meet her at a step and repeat, which are when you go up, you know, for anyone who doesn't know, they're where you stand in the long lines of hundreds of people and you kind of see that backdrop and you step up for a second and you meet for a second and get a picture. That's what I thought was going to happen. And so at lunch, when her chief of staff came to walk me back, we're walking down these long hallways and I think like, where's the step and repeat? Where's the step? And I don't see it. And all of a sudden we arrive to a door and she says, Oprah's inside. This is her green room. Are you ready? And I'm like, you mean just her? And she's like, yeah, she's inside. Are you ready? And I'm like, and then my first thought was, if I'm going to meet her and this is like once in a lifetime, like, let me bring other women with me. You know what I mean? And so the group I had with me, I'm like, can they come in too? And she said, yes.
They
and
come in too. I mean, Jamie, that's who you are. You know, again, the plus one, like you're in the presence of greatness and you're like, but I want to show greatness to other women. I interject, but it's important. Sorry, go on.
And you know, it's like, I think in life we get what we give. You know what I mean? I talk about that a lot. And it's like, there's days where like, if I'm feeling down or I'm feeling like lonely or whatever, I literally have learned that if I show up for someone else and make them feel less alone, then that's when I feel filled up. Or so many days we're like in the Starbucks line on our phone and we're feeling disconnected from humans. It's like, for me, my only remedy for that is like literally putting my phone away and asking someone else, how are you? You know, like it's, but so often we don't do that. And anyhow, yes. So I'm at the door and I walk in and Oprah's sitting on a couch in her green room all alone. And she goes, Miss Kern. And I'm like, holy crap, like, how does she, I'm like, oh my God, Oprah knows my name. And I walk in and she was so amazing and we talked for a few minutes and I just prayed for the right words and I was like, how, you know, let me know if I can be of service to you in any way. And I didn't even know what to say. I was praying for the right words and introduced my friends and we took some photos. It was great and she was amazing. And then after that meeting, went back into the audience to watch the second half of the day. And of course, Brooke, I did what is so easy for us to do, right? I was like, I replayed everything I said in my head, things I wish I would have said, how I didn't even really say anything, and all that crap all day. So I made the decision that I knew it was like 1 in a billion that she somehow saw that email. I know I'm on my Instagram every single day. I almost can't get through my own DMs on my Instagram. I try, but it's almost, I can't even imagine Oprah, right? She must get millions of emails of her teams every single day. And the odds of her getting one, let alone reading it, let alone making the decision to meet, I knew it was 1 in a billion. And I also knew like, I'm going to take a shot at sharing with her what I wish I would have shared when I met her. And so I went to Sedona, Arizona and sat in a room all alone for a weekend and just like prayed for the right words to say. And this whole email poured out of me that I actually share in the book. I share it and believe it. Cause I'm like, if I was reading this, I'd want to know, what'd you say? What'd you write?
Email. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful email.
It was vulnerable and wild and I had by this point I had our chief of staff's email only, but again, what are the odds? And so I sent it the email, and I think a couple months later, I don't remember exactly, but I got a phone call out of the blue from her chief of staff saying Oprah would like to invite you to her home for lunch, and I was like, wait, like why? Like why? She's like, she just wants to. And so anyhow, I share in the book that whole story. We had like a 3 or 4 hour lunch and it was just the two of us. And I brought her, I talk about like, what do you bring someone, like what do you bring Oprah as like a gift to her house? And so I talk about that whole process, and the fearless squirrel was involved in that too. Yeah, it was a life-changing day because I saw, I guess, a real life example of a woman who's not afraid to fully own herself kind of unapologetically. And it was the most beautiful experience. And so now we text and yeah, it's a whole thing. And then I talk, I know we don't have all the time in the world, but I talk in the book about the journey of then also when Oprah gave me her cell phone number and said, call me anytime, you can call me anytime. I talk about this journey of never calling her number, like texting, but And then realizing like, oh, wait, I actually realized I didn't think I was worthy of like being her friend. And I know I am. I know I'm the best friend to anyone in the world, but I had this realization, why am I not calling Oprah? And I go deep in this in the book because I think everything in our life comes down to what we believe and what we believe we're worthy of. And so that's been a journey to believe that. It sounds so silly of me saying this out loud, but you know, we all have this in different forms in our life, right? Do we believe we're worthy of running our own company? Do we believe we're worthy of a huge team following us? There's all these journeys we go through in life and self-belief. And so for me, it was a long journey, actually, a couple of years, to believing I was worthy of actually calling Oprah. And which I know we're all humans and we're all the same and we all have the same heart. I know that, right? But it's that mindset of getting there. So I talk a lot about that in the book.
So important for the audience to hear someone such as you, who even still has the little bit of self-doubt or the questions about self-worth. And even though Oprah has invited you to her home, you know, you still have you've had those thoughts. And for everyone watching, whether it's Oprah or meeting Jamie or someone else in your world, like, it is possible if you do believe it and you know that why. And I'm just going to read, if I may, the final paragraph in your book, and then we'll close out. Jamie ends with this: my prayer and challenge to you is to listen to what you know deep down inside to be true about who you really are and who you were born to be, and then wholeheartedly, unapologetically, with big, bold, wild abandon and every part of your being, start believing fully in the power that is in, that is of, that is you. We are all in this together, and it's an honor to share this life and community with you. I love you. You are worthy of your greatest hopes and wildest dreams, and of all the unconditional love in the world. Beautiful book. You are such a special, beautiful human. I feel so connected to you, having read this and having had the honor, thank you, EXP, for having us be able to interview you today. And just a giant, giant thank you.
And I'm going to echo that. Jamie, Kern, Lima, Brooke, Baldwin, what an amazing, amazing conversation. Thank you both very much for sharing so eloquently of yourselves. And Jamie, you started by saying, I hope that when I speak it touches someone. I think it touched 20,000 people. And it is extraordinary. And Brooke, there's no better orator on this planet than you, my love. And to have the conversation and this dynamic, powerful duo was incredible. We have had such amazing things, not only in the chat, but behind the scenes as well. You touched everyone. There are colleagues of mine, fathers, that are saying, I'm buying both books for my daughters. The message is so important. Thank you, thank you, thank you, both for who you are and who you've shared so much of. It was an incredibly inspirational talk, and we are so grateful to both of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And just a reminder, as we continue, we're going to go right into our breakouts. So EXP Hall and breakout tracks, if you go to the go-to in your menu and walk into the expo hall, you'll locate the doors depending on the track that you're interested in on the right-hand side. They're all labeled for the respective track. Just click on the door and you'll be able to enter there. And they started 5 minutes ago, but we didn't want to leave this conversation. We love you both very, very much. Thank you all for kicking us off so triumphantly on day 2. Everyone enjoy your shareholder summit. Jamie, thank you. Brooke, thank you. I adore you both. All the best. Thank you all.